Hey everybody, welcome into the Early Edge NFL Pick Show Week 8 edition. This is brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. I'm Claudia Bellofatto, joined by my regular squad. In studio with me is RJ White. I have Larry Hartstein, Will Brinson joining me. And fellas, if you were a bettor who liked the favorites on Sunday, you turned out pretty good. They went 7-0 straight up and covering. Yeah, it was the day for the squares, Will.
Yeah, I think it's something, Claudia, to watch out for this week because there's 8 of 13 games that we have this week are lined 7 points or more, which leads you to believe that the books would like to get some of that money they lost to the public back last week.
Yeah, RJ, you and I were talking before the show started. I'm like, I went back and forth on this Colts game, which we'll talk about later, laying 14. I don't want to lay 14. You got to lay 8.5 in the first half. It's tough with these big spreads, and especially after favorites did so well last week.
Yeah, people are getting confidence in these favorites. They're starting to see, we know who the bad teams are, we know who the good teams are. I think anybody that does weekly power ratings, they've all kind of coalesced to the same point. They all kind of look similar at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what injuries end up mattering down this week and down the road, and where you can get differentiation from the market.
And Larry, you're with us. We haven't seen you in a little bit. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and what you talked about, the 5 worst teams, people are just betting against them and cashing. They got outscored by 100 points combined, talking about the Jets, the Raiders, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Titans. Those 5 teams, if you've been playing against them, very profitable.
And a team like the Chargers, who we're going to talk about now for Thursday Night Football, a team you wanted to be careful not getting too excited about because of how they started and how they look now. Chargers laying 3, though, with all that said, against the Vikings at home, total at 44 in the hook. The Chargers went from taking down all of their divisional opponents, looking like the best offense in football the first few weeks, to now dropping 3 of their last 4 games. The only win was a 2-point win against the Dolphins with a last-second field goal. Vikings coming off a Week 7 loss to the Eagles on a short week, heading to L.A. Larry, I'm going to come to you first. You like the Vikings. It's down to 3 now, but you got 3 in the hook.
Yeah, actually, a lot of books still dealing 3.5, and I disagree with this. I think this should be 3 or even less. The Vikings moved the ball up and down the field against the Eagles. They had a touchdown taken away on a very questionable holding call. They were in the red zone 6 times. They averaged nearly 6 yards a play. They get Aaron Jones back, and I'm excited about that because maybe Carson Wentz, instead of just throwing the ball up for grabs to a linebacker on the other team, will dump it off to Aaron Jones. And you talked about the Chargers going 1-3 and barely beating the Dolphins. That coincides with Joe Alt being out with that high ankle sprain, and we'll see if he's able to come back on a short week. He's getting in limited practices, but this is the very early stage of when you would come back from a high ankle sprain. I don't think he's going to play. I like the Vikings to cover.
RJ, you have a lean on the Vikings, and like Larry just mentioned, Carson Wentz is set to go. J.J. McCarthy was the emergency third quarterback last week. Do we have any faith in Carson Wentz at this point? Is it faith in Carson Wentz or really just the players around?
Yeah, he was playing pretty good up until last week. 0 touchdowns, two interceptions last week. I don't know that that's going to happen in this game. The Chargers have 7 turnovers on the season. 6 of them came against the Dolphins and in that game against the Raiders. So, I don't think the Vikings are at that level, even with Carson Wentz at quarterback. So as long as he's protecting the ball, I'd like them to go ahead and cover in this game. They were victimized by a top-tier Hurts performance last week. Still only lost by a margin of 6, which was that second quarter pick 6 you mentioned. So this team is playing pretty well. Feels like a close matchup. Likely comes down to a field goal. Now that the books are dealing out 3.5, I like getting the 3.5.
And Will, you're staying away from the side, and you're just going to give us an early prop.
Yeah, I would take the Vikings here too. RJ mentioned a pick 6, Larry mentioned a holding call. Let's not forget the TJ Hawkinson touchdown that was overturned. It was really, really close to being a score. Like the Vikings could have won that game or been covered certainly against Philadelphia. But I'm going to take Jordan Mason anytime touchdown. The Chargers have, over the last 3 weeks, the worst run defense in football. They're giving up worse than the Dolphins. They're giving up 5.8 yards per carry on the ground over the last 3 weeks. And over those 3 weeks, have given up 7 touchdowns to running backs. 7 touchdowns in 3 games to running backs. Jordan Mason is at plus money. Maybe Aaron Jones is a factor from keeping this from steaming to minus 120, which is where I think it should be. I'll take Mason plus 115 to score, and I think you should probably sprinkle, as I did on SportsLine.com, on Jordan Mason anytime 2 touchdowns at 8-1. By the way, 9-0 run on SportsLine for your boy. No big deal.
Okay, well, let's go. I'm going to be soft here and say that I did tease the Vikings when the line was 2.5, but I agree with you guys. I think 3 is a very safe number. The Chargers have had a lot of injuries, which has hurt them, but they have been failing at all 3 phases. They're 31st in defensive success rate over the past 4 weeks, after being a league best over the opening 3 weeks. And I know, again, injuries, but that's a massive drop off. And the O-line is doing nothing to help Justin Herbert. He has faced 106 pressures. That's the most by a wide margin. He's been sacked 20 times. He's taken more hits than any quarterback in the league at 62. And now, as a result of being flustered, he's thrown a pick in 4 of the past 5 games. I like the Vikings. We're all on board here for Thursday Night Football. Don't go anywhere. When we come back here on the Early Edge, we are running through the rest of the Week 8 slate, starting with the 1 p.m. games. And that guy right there, Jackson Dart and the Giants, can they make a comeback this week? Back here on the Early Edge, running through the Week 8 slate with Larry, Will, RJ. I'm Claudia. Let's talk Giants-Eagles, which is a little bit of deja vu because we saw this 2 weeks ago in New York. Giants won that one as 7-point underdogs. Eagles now at home laying 7, total set at 43 in the hook. Jackson Dart and this Giants squad have been so fun to watch, but they are coming off an absolute heartbreaker against Denver. Shut him out for 3 quarters, then let Denver put up 33 in the 4th quarter, and that was historic. The most we've ever seen in NFL history in that scenario. The Giants had a 99.8% win probability in the 4th quarter. Will, how do they bounce back here?
Yeah, and the Broncos probably had like a 99% win probability at some point, like before the Giants took the lead again in that game. It was just a wild finish. I like the over in this spot. You know, the Giants defensive line can get after you. The Eagles offensive line played better last week. And what we saw from the Eagles against the Vikings is, I mean, hello, where's this been all season? Attack vertically with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and not put the pressure on Saquon Barkley to set up the rest of the offense. If that is what the Eagles are moving forward, this team is going to look very different in terms of their against the spread numbers, their size, the sides and the totals. And I think this is a little low for what we could get from Jackson Dart against the Philly defense. We saw them play really well at home 2 weeks ago. And now, you know, I think the Giants will get there in terms of getting their 20 points. And I think the Eagles are going to throw the ball down the field again and try to go into the bye with a lot of momentum. So I'll take the over in this spot.
Yeah, RJ, you look at that game, we finally saw signs of life. And as Will said, a lot of it was the passing game. We still haven't seen much from Saquon Barkley. But you're going under on their team total.
Yeah, you know, on one side of it, you know, Hurts played his butt off that game, and they played about as good as you can, as Will said, downfield passing. Offense only scored 21, 22 points in that game, right? They still didn't have that effective of a scoring game there when you throw in that pick 6 touchdown we talked about earlier. So I like the Eagles to go under 26.5. It's a massive total, I think, for them in this game, considering they've only covered it once. And they might be without Cam Jurgens at center. That's a big loss for them if he's not able to play at center, because we know how effective that offensive line can be. So it just seems like even though the Giants offense just cooked Denver in this game, I don't think they'll really be shut down. I would lean to the Giants, despite the flip in the rating. Like you mentioned, the line was 7 in New York, and now it's 7 in Philadelphia. You typically don't see that much of a ratings adjustment in 2 weeks. So that would tend to put you on the Eagles. I just don't know if they're going to score a ton of points in this game. That is expected. So I like their team total under.
Larry, some disagreement here because I know you're looking at the full game total over.
Yeah, I agree with Will. And part of that historic comeback by the Broncos, it wasn't just the Giants' stupidity of throwing the ball with less than 5 minutes to go and setting up that interception, giving Denver a short field. Part of it was Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland, and Brian Burns all suffered injuries late in that game, and then Denver started picking them apart. So the Giants' defense, we don't know the status yet of all of those key guys, but those are 3 big injuries. And on the other side, you know, Jackson Dart, they're number 10 in EPA since he took over. So that offense has a lot more juice. We saw the Eagles give up a ton of yards, a ton of red zone possessions to the Vikings. I think 43.5 is low. When you think it was 34-17 less than 2 weeks ago, I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm leaning taking the points with the Giants for everything that you just mentioned, Larry. It's a lean because of the defensive injuries for the Giants, but it's night and day in what this offense looks like with Jackson Dart under center. And I know the Eagles looked better last week, but they still have been outgained in every single game. They still have not covered 7 once. And their good game against Saquon Barkley continues to be one of the least explosive backs in the league, which is a sentence we're not used to hearing. He's averaging 3.3 yards a carry. That's the worst of running backs to have at least 75 carries. So if you don't have the run game going, passing game we saw happen good once. Yes, if they have a soft secondary with these injuries, maybe. But 7 points is a lot for a divisional battle with the team that already won this as a 7-point dog, and they've been winning as 7-point dogs. They've covered the last 3 as 6-point dogs or more, winning 2 outright. I will take the 7. Dolphins, Falcons, again, a 7-point favorite here. 45 is the total. Dolphins at 1-6. Mike McDaniel's seat hotter than ever when you consider the fact, Will, that their only win was against the winless Jets.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a hot seat. Except he can't get fired. I mean, Stephen Ross just doesn't want to fire him, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing per se, because I don't know what Tua Tagovailoa is going to look like in someone else's offense. I mean, this team is kind of in just bad shape overall, and this is one of those spots where we talk about at the top of the show. There's a lot of teams laying a touchdown or more. It's a little concerning because you don't want to be all these big favorites, but man, I cannot back the Dolphins. They are absolutely putrid. Atlanta at home, a very different team. We talked about that last week. They just play better on that turf at home, indoors. I'll take the Falcons laying the 7 here, but I don't love it just because it's a lot of points.
RJ, McDaniel right now is 3-15. A record of 3-15 against winning teams over the last 18. Not great. And this Falcons team, though, the issue is they are so inconsistent. Zero consistency. We saw them come off a loss to the Niners, put up just 10 points, but they upset the Bills the week before and got blanked by the Panthers a few weeks before that.
Yeah, it's an interesting team. The offense has played well in the last 2 home games, though, including running all over the Bills, like you mentioned. That's a problem for the Dolphins. Dolphins cannot defend the run at all. So it should be a big Bijan game here. The Dolphins offense continues to take hits. Darren Waller to the IR. I don't know how they cover through the back door if they get behind, right? Who are you throwing to? You're throwing to Jalen Waddle, and then Malik Washington is getting 2 yards per catch or whatever it is. I think there was one game a few weeks ago he had 4 catches and 0 yards, which I didn't know was possible. Yeah. So if he has one of those games, I don't know how you're coming back from that if the Falcons are up and they're running the ball effectively. So we'll look at the Michael Penix injury. If we get Kirk Cousins in here, maybe the line dips down a little bit and we can lay it at less than 7. If that's the case, I'll be stronger in Atlanta, but I don't think the quarterback matters in this matchup because of the state of the Dolphins. So I'm going to probably take the Falcons either way.
Larry, we're all on the same page here?
Yeah, I'm laying it. I'm using the Falcons in Circa Survivor because they played a very tough schedule, but when you look at how they've played at home, that offense really clicks. 8.6 yards per attempt for Penix, a 106 passer rating. The numbers much worse on the road. Maybe it's because Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson are all better on the turf indoors. Whatever it is, they've been a different team at home. And Tua Tagovailoa, 21 games, his last 21 games, 22 picks, and 13 fumbles, yet he is still the starting quarterback. He's facing an elite pass defense in Atlanta. I love the Falcons on Sunday.
Yeah, this Atlanta defense right now, 5th highest pressure rate, 6th highest sack rate. I wasn't really sure because you look at the start of their season, the resume wasn't very sexy. So going into that Bills game, I'm like, yeah, the Falcons defense is good, but how good is it really? And it looked great against the Bills, got passed on against the Niners. CMC, they let run on him, but I still don't think they'll have an issue. Again, it all goes back to because it's the Miami Dolphins, and they're struggling. So, sweeping across the board, they're laying 7 with the Falcons. How about the Jets and the Bengals? Bengals laying 6.5 here, total set at 44 in the hook. Bengals coming off their first win with Joe Flacco, breaking their 4-game losing streak, taking down the Steelers, so a big, important divisional game there. Jets 0-7, a complete mess. They've gone back-to-back games without a single touchdown, Larry. How do you approach this one?
Well, I got on Cincy at 4.5 early in the week. Right now, it'd just be a lean for me because that Jet defense has played well 2 straight weeks. We don't yet know who's going to be the quarterback. If it is Tyrod Taylor who's dealing with a knee injury, he has shown some competency with the forward pass and avoiding sacks a little bit better than Justin Fields, who leads the NFL in his sack rate. But Joe Flacco's been amazing. 5 TDs, no interceptions since halftime of the Green Bay game. And remember, he came in just a few days before that game. This offense is clicking. He knows where the ball needs to go to number 1, Jamar Chase. So I do like the Bengals, but at 6.5, more of a lean.
RJ, yes, maybe the offense is better with Joe Flacco, but the defense still bottom 3 in points allowed per drive, red zone efficiency, yards allowed per play. I assume that has something to do with you taking the points.
Yeah, giving up 6.1 yards per play. And if you're doing that as a defense, you should not be laying close to a touchdown or a touchdown. I think any team that has even a competent quarterback, and the jury's out on Justin Fields, I'm sure, at this point. So if he plays, you can argue that. You want to play the other side there. Look ahead was Bengals -2.5. So now that we jumped up 4 points, that is a lot of ground, going through some key numbers to give off of one performance. Very good performance against the Steelers, right? But maybe Jamar Chase just dominated that cornerback matchup, So I wouldn't have moved the line this high, I think, at +6.5. We are getting value with a defense that has played very well the last 2 weeks, considering the offense gives them no help, right? They don't start in good positions at any drive because the offense can't move the ball. So with their backs against the wall, they're playing very good defense right now. I like getting Jets +6.5, was able to get a +7 briefly. So hopefully the people listening can look out for those sevens and maybe get one of those, but I would take the Jets either way.
And good reminder, too, I know, Larry, you said you got a better number. If you're not already joined into SportsLine, do that, because we're getting all of these plays up as soon as possible. Will, it sounds like you're in agreement with RJ.
Yeah, I'll take the Jets. The number is just too big. And, look, this Jets team also, Tyrod Taylor, Justin Fields, whoever, they've been pretty good about coming through scoring in the second half when they're down big. And you can throw the ball, run the ball against the Bengals. People should be playing, to get out of New York via trade. I'll take the Jets getting the points.
All right, and just quickly for me, I'm going to go Bengals over 24.5 points, but I'll do the write-up on SportsLine, so go check it out there. Browns, Patriots, rapid fire here. Pats on fire. Top 10 in the Super Bowl odds now. Drake May, one of the best quarterbacks in all of the NFL. Laying 7 against a tough Browns defense. RJ, quick thoughts here.
Yeah, Browns team total under 16.5. Last week was their first game over 17. It was thanks to turnovers. The offense only managed 206 yards, so I don't see any success for them offensively in this game against the Patriots. I like their team total under.
Larry?
Go with the Patriots over 23.5 because that Browns defense away from home, not what it is in Cleveland, and they're number 3 in explosive pass rate, and the Browns actually bottom 5 in giving up the explosive pass.
Will?
I'm taking the Browns, but I don't really like it. I mean, this is just a spot where it's a lot of points. Everybody's on the Patriots. And Cleveland, to Larry's point, bad on the road, but still a good defense.
Yeah, 2 of the best defenses against the run here. I don't have much faith in the Browns offense. I do have faith in the Patriots defense, but they're facing one of the tougher defenses. So I'm just going to go under on the total game. I wish we had more time to talk about my Patriots. We stacked the show wrong, but it's fine. We're coming back to talk much more football running through the rest of this Week 8 slate. Don't go anywhere. Join us to talk about this Bills squad. Can they get back on track here on the Early Edge? Back here on the Early Edge, hanging out with Larry, Will, RJ. I'm Claudia. Running through this 1 p.m. slate, let's talk about this Bills squad. Another big favorite, laying 7.5 on the road against a Panthers squad that's actually picking up momentum. They're coming off of 3 straight wins, second in the NFC South. Issue is, which is why we're probably seeing this at 7.5, Bryce Young did suffer a high ankle sprain and is doubtful, and Will, as you said, he's not playing.
Yeah, we're not going to see Bryce Young out there. High ankle sprain. I think it's maybe even a stretch to see him in Week 9 for the Panthers. For me, though, the quarterback doesn't matter in the handicap of this game, because if the Panthers are going to cover the 7.5, and I'm taking the Panthers to cover the 7.5, it's going to come down to the Bills wanting to do one thing, which is run the ball, and the Panthers being good at stopping that, which they are. Since Derek Brown came back, they've been relative to the franchise, it's their best 3-game stretch since 2015 at stopping the run over the last 3 games. So they're going to, if they can stop what the Bills want to do and then can do what they want to do, which is run the football, which the Bills are bad at stopping at, I think there's a chance we see very few points in this game. Actually, I think I'm taking the under here. I'm sorry, but I'm taking the under, but I do like the Panthers to cover. I just don't, I think both teams are going to run the ball a bunch, and we're not going to see a lot of points in this one.
That's fair enough. And some people might argue the Bills had their bye week. They're fresh. They have the advantage. They should cover the 7.5. But 7.5 is still a lot of points for a Bills squad that's let a lot of lesser teams keep it close, RJ, down the stretch.
Yeah, I think that the bye is really the only reason the market might like to push the Bills up to 7.5 here with the backup quarterbacking. Like I said, the preseason look ahead was Buffalo -7, and I'd argue that these teams are pointed a lot closer toward each other now with the way Carolina has played and Buffalo struggles. So I don't really get the line. I like the Panthers at +7.5. The thought is the bye might get Buffalo healthy, but that's not going to fix the run defense. And you can argue that maybe they're not even going to get healthy because Daquan Jones, I think, is still termed week to week, so he might not be back for this game. Last in the NFL in yards per rush, and that's where Carolina shines offensively. So I think they will be effective running the ball. Dalton is a veteran quarterback who can protect the ball, let the run game plus a defense that has played well the last few weeks do its thing and cover this +7.5. I think the number's way too high.
Larry, it's a lean for you?
Yeah, Carolina at home, 30, 27, and 30 points in their 3 home games, and they're putting up 177 rush yards per game over their last 4, and the Bills are giving up 5.8 yards per carry. The reason I would hesitate is just that bye week and you know, coming off an embarrassing loss. The Bills are that powerhouse. You know, we're going to see if they are the powerhouse we thought they were after the first few weeks, because if they are, they're going to make a statement on Sunday. But right now, I would lean with Carolina.
Agreed. I just think back to the Saints and I think back to Miami and letting them keep it close in that fourth quarter. And now you have a Panthers team at home catching 7.5. They're the most profitable team covering at 5-2. They've covered all 3 games at home. 7.5 just feels a bit too much to me. And it could be worse than Andy Dalton. Question mark. But again, as the guy said, it's not so much the quarterback situation, but everything else around it. Also, we have our prop show on Friday, 1 p.m., same time, same place. Rico Dowdle. Bills ranked 31st in rush yards allowed between Miami and Dallas. He put up a combined 473 yards against those 2 teams. Curious what he does against his Bill squad. We'll move on to Bears and Ravens. RJ, I'll come to you first. Ravens laying 6.5 here, total at 50 in the hook. Ravens coming off the bye, just 1 win on the season, but Lamar Jackson is inching closer to playing.
Yeah, I like the Bears here. I mean, the line fully expects Lamar to play because the defense is still in a state, right? They have not played well this year. They're not going to get Justin Madubuike back. Lamar was sidelined Monday. We'll see if he practices coming up. I think you're getting a lot of value playing the Bears at +6.5. If he's cleared to return, I don't think the line should get higher than 7 with how the Bears offense is cooking right now and Baltimore's defense is struggling. So I will wait to see a little bit. If I can get a better number, if I can get a +7, my plan is to be on the Bears despite that bye week advantage that Baltimore has.
And Will, they're coming off their 4th straight win, and we're catching 6.5 with them.
Yeah, and if you look at the Bears, you know, they had their bye week, and they came out and looked much better defensively over the last 2 weeks. I know it was the Dennis Allen revenge game, and that worked out for him against New Orleans. But the Bears' defense improved, and I think the Bears' offense, although Caleb Williams hadn't put up monster stats, has looked pretty, relatively sharp. I think their bye week is really helpful for them. For Baltimore, it was all about just like, we need a week off because we are too banged up. And as RJ said, this line is baked in that Lamar's coming back fully healthy, but he's not even back in practice. We don't know yet on Wednesday, of course, because we're live on television on Wednesday. But I think, if Lamar misses Wednesday or Thursday, this line could dip down. I like the Bears catching 6.5 right now.
Larry, I know you're on the other side, so I'm going to quickly tie the bow on the Bears. I'm going to take them in the first half because you can get that key number of 3 plus 3.5 getting the hook. Again, unsure if Lamar is starting. Even if he does, there may be some rust. There may be some rust there since he's not practicing yet. Bears are the most profitable team covering the first half. They're 3rd in the league in first half points. Baltimore is bottom 10. Team total, also an option. They're cashing that at the highest rate. And just really fading this defense for the Ravens. Even if they're healthier, they're allowing the most points per drive. So Bears first half plus 3.5. Larry, tell us why you disagree with us.
Well, contingent on Lamar getting back to practice and playing on Sunday, you're also getting Ronnie Stanley back. You're also getting your fullback, your 300-pound fullback, Patrick Ricard back. You're getting Roquan Smith, Chidobe Awuzie. A lot of guys who are out are coming back for the Ravens, and as improved as the Bears are, they're plus 13 in this 4-game winning streak in turnovers. They're getting 3 to 4 turnovers per game. That is not something you can just expect every single week. I think this is the spot where the Ravens, who still have a good shot in the division because the Steelers are not running away with anything and they're underdogs this week. So the Ravens still believe they can take this division, and I think it starts Sunday.
Larry, I'm going to come back to you for a quick hitter on Niners, Texans. Texans, the 1.5-point favorite. Niners coming off that win over the Falcons. Brock Purdy's status still up in the air, unlikely to play here.
Yeah, but even Mac Jones has been super efficient. And with Nico Collins out, this Houston offense looks just so pathetic. C.J. Stroud averaged under 4 yards per attempt. They're on a short week. I like the Niners in Texas.
Well, I'm not a mind reader, but the shaking of the head tells me to agree.
Look, like you lose Fred Warner, you lose Nick Bosa. It doesn't matter for the Niners. Robert Saleh's doing a great job. Should be assistant coach of the year right now. And Mac Jones is playing good football. Niners get a little healthier. I think they can run with McCaffrey here.
RJ?
You definitely run with McCaffrey because Kittle's back, right? McCaffrey had his best game of the season with Kittle back in the lineup blocking for him. I know Kittle didn't do anything as a receiver, frustrating fantasy, managers there, but it's still an effective run game there with him back. Collins is the driving force of what little offense Houston has. So without him, I don't know how you can expect them to score points, even with no Fred Warner on the other side. I like the 49ers plus 1.5 as well.
I just want a little wiggle room, so I'm going to tease them up to get them over a touchdown, tease them with the Vikings and a 6-point teaser just because of this Texans defense. It has been one of the best, allowing the fewest points, ranked third in overall DVOA. Don't really trust their offense. They don't have many big wins on their resume, so I will tease the 49ers. Don't go anywhere. This show continues running through the Week 8 slate. We have the 4 p.m. coming up. Don't go anywhere here on the Early Edge. It's time for the 4 p.m. slate here on the Early Edge, running through Week 8 with Will, RJ, Larry. And RJ, I'm going to come to you first on this Bucs Saints game because the Bucs cannot get away from the injury bug, yet they're laying 4.5 against a struggling Saints team coming off a loss to the Bears in that Dennis Allen revenge game. Bucs also coming off a loss, though, an uncharacteristic game against the Lions, which I thought they'd keep a little bit closer. I know they have the injuries, but they had Mike Evans back. But now he's out again with a collarbone and a concussion. Bucky Irving also out, and Chris Godwin, RJ.
Yeah, and I don't think those injuries are what did them in that game. I think it was Baker Mayfield. Maybe he's dealing with an injury that isn't as widely reported, but he looked nothing like the potential MVP in that game. Everything was high, especially going out of bounds, 10 feet out of bounds in those games. And this was against a secondary that was missing both its starting safeties, both its top two cornerbacks. I don't know why they weren't attacking downfield, and it seemed like the few times they did, he was overthrowing the ball. So I worry a little bit about him. I think they'll bounce back against the Saints defense that isn't as strong up front and get out to a better start here because that Detroit defensive line just took over that matchup. So Saints have been down by at least 3 at the break in every game, except for the one where they had an 87-yard touchdown. So as long as the Bucs aren't giving up an 87-yard touchdown in this game, I think they will lead by a field goal at halftime. So I'm leaning to Bucs minus 2.5 in the first half.
Larry, you think maybe more struggles to come for the Bucs? You're taking the points with the Saints.
Yeah, when Baker missed that wide open Tez Johnson in the end zone, that was when it hit me that, maybe something is bothering him. But Spencer Rattler, he was terrible in Chicago, but at home, he has not committed a turnover. They played 4 games in New Orleans. The worst result is a 6-point loss. I think the Saints can keep it close and cover the number.
Well, you agree?
Yeah, same here for me. This Bucs defense, you can get at them in the secondary. I think you can get all of our plays, I guess, like Tampa in the first half and then the Saints in the second half, throwing the ball down the field, needing to, attack that secondary when you're trailing in the second half. And as Larry points out, night and day for the Saints at home versus on the road. I'll take the Saints in the points.
Yeah, and when it comes to Spencer Rattler, he threw 3 picks, but before that, he only had 1. So he's actually done okay protecting the ball. The offense just sucks. But I'm going to look, because of that, at the under on the full game at 47 in the hooks. Bucs on a short turnaround, their second straight road game, third in 4 weeks. Of course, all of these cluster injuries on offense, possibly a look-ahead spot, too, because they have the bye coming up. And the Saints defense actually did okay, I think better than the score reflected against this Bears squad. I know they got smashed in that second quarter, but you take that out, it was a closer game. They limited the Bears to just 3 for 12 on third down, allowed touchdowns on only 2 of their 6 red zone trips. And as we know, the offense needs a lot of help. Spencer Rattler, maybe this season, not throwing a bunch of picks, but he did in this game, sacked 4 times, lost a fumble. It's not pretty, but the defense did their job for the most part, so I'll go under. Moving on to Titans and Colts. What do you do with a 14-point spread? I don't know. We're going to figure it out, guys, together. Colts laying 14 here. Total set at 47. The look ahead was 11.5. They reopened this at 14. And people are just laying the number, I guess, Will?
Yeah, I mean, look, full disclosure, I mean, I didn't even fill this out in our Google Doc.
I didn't
I was
either.
so perplexed by this number. I was like, what do I do? And shout out to RJ who lobbed it up during the commercial break. Tyler Warren, anytime touchdown plus 115 is what I'll go with. I'm just riding RJ's coattails here. But I think, when you look at National Tight End Day, we saw it last year. On National Tight End Day, the tight ends get loose. They score. George Kittle, anytime touchdown, probably a good look at that aforementioned 49ers game. But Tyler Warren's been a monster this year. Tennessee can't stop anybody doing anything. Everybody's up for sale except for Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. This Titans team is just dead in the water. So I'll take a flyer on Warren to score a touchdown.
Yes, RJ did get the lob there. I also wrote Colts something in my notes, tried finding something first half, got to lay 8.5 team total, which I know Larry and RJ, you're both going to touch on. So I'm just going to say I'm staying away from this game. If somehow the Titans come in and score first, then I'm going to jump all over the Colts because this number will get smaller, but maybe not even that much smaller. Cam Ward continues to take a beating. He's not the answer for this team. He was sacked 5 times, fumbled for the second consecutive game. Now he leads the league with 5 on the season. He's taken the second most hits. He's dead last in completion percentage. Pretty much any stat you want to think of. He is dead last or bottom 5. No faith in this offense. Not much faith in this defense either. There's a reason the Colts are laying 14. But what we can do with a big favorite is look at their team total, which is high, RJ, but you're still going over.
It's high, but we've seen 30.5 from, great offenses. And right now, Indy's averaging 33.1 points per game. They are the best offense in the league right now. Some of that is the teams that they have played. But look at the team they're playing this week, the Titans, right? They've allowed 31 plus against the 3 best offenses that they have faced. First game between these teams got to 61. Colts won 41-20. Game had 3 missed field goals. Could have been a 70-point game. Finish some of those drives, could have been even more. So if you want to take the over, I'm fine with that. I like taking the Colts team total over so we don't have to worry about whether Tennessee gets a garbage time touchdown that covers late in the game. I'd rather just take the Colts to get to 31 again.
And Larry, they've come out to hot starts. They scored a touchdown on each of their first 3 possessions against this Chargers squad, and we've been seeing that week to week with them.
Yeah, and it's week 8, and they've only punted 12 times. They have the rushing leader in Jonathan Taylor. They have Tyler Warren, who leads all tight ends. They have Daniel Jones, resuscitating his career. And you're facing Cam Ward, who is probably good for that, fumble 6, pick 6. That also helps your team total get over 30.5.
All right, let's move on to Cowboys and Broncos. Broncos, finally, we have a small spread. Broncos laying 3 here, total set at 50 in the hook. Well, I'll come to you first. Denver, out of nowhere, the AFC West leader right now with 4 straight wins. It's been sweaty, though. A lot of them close games. We talked about that Giants win, which was very lucky for them. Cowboys offense, meanwhile, is rolling. We always go back to that resume conversation. They have faced some soft defenses, but they're taking care of business well.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Cowboys are kind of good, right? Add Micah Parsons on this team, and you might be cooking with gas, Jerry.
Imagine.
Yeah, I know, right? I'll take the Cowboys plus the 3. In my Bet It Now column on CBSSports.com, I gave out the Cowboys the over in this game. I think it was I couldn't believe it was lined under 50. It's creeped up now a little bit high. I do think the Cowboys draw the Broncos into more of a shootout. But Dak Prescott has been incredible. 4 straight games, of 3 touchdowns or more and no interceptions. The only other players who do that, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, I think. And maybe take Manning off there. But anyway, it's a great list of guys. Dak is playing at an MVP level. And I think we should get a little bit of a shootout here. The Cowboys stick around and cover the plus 3.
And I think there is a pretty big gap between the defenses. We can say that. Broncos with the edge there. But Cowboys look a little bit better on that side of the ball, Larry.
Yeah, but the Cowboys have such a great offense. I just want to rave about Dak Prescott and this offense. He's number 1 when pressured this year. They're top 5 in pass efficiency, but also in rushing. So this is a team that has just been incredible offensively. And Denver, Bo Nix, when they get down and it's the 4th quarter, he plays amazing. But up until then, we don't see much from this offense. So give me the points with Dallas.
RJ, on the same page?
Yeah, the market's pushed us up to 3.5. I don't get it. I really like the Cowboys at plus 3.5. Denver's not playing like a 5-2 team. They gave up 26 plus first downs for the 3rd time this season to Indy, to the Chargers, and the Giants. They've dominated broken offenses. Dallas obviously, belongs in that first category. They're playing very well with Dak Prescott, number 2 in scoring, CeeDee Lamb back, offensive line healthier. They're going to score a ton of points in this game, I think, against this defense that isn't as highly rated as the numbers would suggest. And I don't know if Denver can keep up because Bo Nix looking pretty ugly early on in games here until he gets down big. So I love Cowboys plus 3.5.
Did you say a lot of points, RJ? Music to my ears because I'm going with the Cowboys team total low. You can get as low as 22 in the hook if you want to pay that 130 juice, which I don't mind. Denver's defense, as much as it may be better season-wise, they had a lot of busted coverages last week and a lot of missed tackles, and the Cowboys will take advantage of that. We saw them get the ground game and the passing game going last week. The Cowboys did, which is huge to have that balance, averaging 6.6 yards per play in that game. And Dak has thrown at least 3 touchdowns in 4 straight games. This Cowboys offense is rolling, and they have cashed this 22.5 in all but one of the last 6. Cowboys team total, we're going over. Don't worry, we've got more to come. Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football here with the Early Edge Squad. Don't go anywhere. Back here on the Early Edge to break down Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Before we do that, RJ let us know in the commercial break Lamar Jackson is practicing, which Larry was happy about, but also RJ's happy about because we might get the 7, right, RJ?
Exactly. Maybe even 7.5, as Larry said.
All right. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football. We got the Packers laying 3 against the Steelers, which means, yes, it's the Aaron Rodgers revenge game. And, Will, you know I'm coming to you first. You're our narrative guy. Steelers dropped their last one to Joe Flacco and the Bengals in that Old Man Bowl, as we discussed. Packers coming off back-to-back wins. But it was sweaty. They won in the final 2 minutes against Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals in Week 7. I'm looking here now. Across the board, we're taking the points with the Steelers. Talk to me about this narrative.
I mean, you don't need me to explain. Look, revenge games. We're 2-0. I know. I'm just saying, I'm not going to go through the whole rigmarole of explaining why Aaron Rodgers, the pettiest man in the NFL, is going to be looking to upset the Packers with, by the way, 10 days rest because you played on Thursday, humiliating loss, in which Aaron Rodgers was really good against the Bengals in that divisional game on Thursday Night Football. It's Sunday night. You're getting the Packers coming to town. The Packers don't like to put away anybody. Josh Jacobs is banged up. They're traveling from Arizona all the way to Pittsburgh. I think it's a good travel spot for the Steelers. I'm really kind of surprised that they're catching the full 3 or the 3.5 in some spots. I love the Packers here. Aaron Rodgers might be the only time he ever gets to play against the Packers in his career. He's trying to beat all 32 NFL teams. Give me the Steelers on the money line, certainly with the points.
Yeah, Larry, you got to think he comes into this one just all guns blazing.
Yeah, and he's been good since the bye. I mean, he's an old man, but since the bye, 44 out of 64, 6 touchdowns, 2 INTs, and he's got a coach, Mike Tomlin, who's 22-7 against the spread as a home dog. These are the kinds of spots where you love to back the Steelers. Packers' 4th road game in their last 5 games. I like the Steelers plus the 3.
And RJ, only 2 losses this season for the Steelers. And like I said, a 2-point game there against the Bengals. And Week 2 against the Seahawks, the final score was very different. But that game was close at the end of the 3rd quarter. Steelers have looked good.
Yeah, but they should have lost handily to your Patriots as well, if not for those fumbles. Yeah. Can't forget about that one too. So I don't know that they're as good as their record indicates, but neither is the Packers, the 3rd best team according to the market right now. They have not played particularly well over the last month. Only impressive win has been against a Cincy team breaking in a new quarterback. And Arizona's defense had its best game of the season against this Packers offense last week. So I don't know that Green Bay is a tough opponent like Seattle, like New England, those games that Pittsburgh struggled in a bit. I think they can cover this number here and potentially win outright. So I am also taking Steelers plus 3. Would love to get 3.5 though.
And I guess I should asterisk that the Steelers' defense has not looked very good. I think Aaron Rodgers and the offense has looked good. The Steelers' defense has worried me, so maybe that's where the Packers have the edge. But the Packers' secondary has also been questionable. They're very Micah Parsons reliant with that pass rush. So I think if you want to convince yourself more on why you should take the Steelers, that's one of the topics. And then also the gap between Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. It sounds crazy to say, but I don't really think it's all that big. They're both well protected. They're both taking care of the ball. Completion percentage is right there. I know Love is far and away more mobile, but when it comes to being the quarterback and taking care of the football, they're sort of right there. And Rodgers has the edge when it comes to touchdowns, 14-10. And what do you need to win football games? You need to score touchdowns. So I'm going to take the points with the Steelers at 3.5. Let's move on to Monday Night Football. Commanders, Chiefs, another big one. Another big spread here. Chiefs laying 10. Commanders have dropped back-to-back games. The defense just gave up 44 to the Cowboys, and offense can't find any rhythm because nobody's on the field together at the same time. And now you have Jaden Daniels out with a hammy. Dan Quinn did say that Debo is trending in the positive direction, as well as Terry McLaurin. But of course, no Jaden Daniels does not help. And the Chiefs, meanwhile, Larry, they're back. Rashee Rice returned. They blanked the Raiders. Chiefs had more points than the Raiders had offensive plays, Larry.
Yeah, and they're the Super Bowl favorites for good reason. Those four receivers, I mean, the speed that they have now with Rashee Rice and Worthy back, it's incredible, very tough to defend. And the Commanders, not only is Jaden Daniels out, but they lost their best pass rusher, Dorrance Armstrong, to a terrible season-ending knee injury. He had 5.5 sacks. So I just think with Mariota liable to put some balls in play, make some mistakes, I like the Chiefs to cover the big number.
RJ, they're back, but 10.5 points is a lot.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs rated number 1 right now. I still can't get this game to double digits, even with Daniels out. Receiver core should be more whole with those injuries you mentioned. Mariota has been fine when he's been on the field for this team the last year plus, so I think he'll be fine here. Would help, having those receivers to backdoor this cover here. Chiefs also 22nd in yards per rush allowed, and Washington's run game has been very effective. So Chiefs were minus 11.5 against the awful Raiders team. They covered easily. I don't think that the Commanders, even with Mariota at quarterback, should be in that ballpark of where the Raiders were going into that game. So I lean to the Commanders plus 10.5. I think it's good value.
Okay, and Will, you're going to take the Commanders as well?
Well, yeah, and now I'm not going to take the Commanders at 10 because now that Jaden Daniels has been officially ruled out, that number's jumped up a little bit. So, I mean, and that's just the nature of live television, right? When that happens, you're going to see a line movement. You're probably going to close closer to 14. I think we see some 12.5s out there now. I would lean towards the Commanders because I think we saw from the Raiders completely lifeless. Like Pete Carroll wasn't even calling his timeouts at the end of the game. He walked out of there with 3 of them with down 31-0, and it's just embarrassing. I think you'll see a little more life from the Commanders, maybe liable for a backdoor here. But Kansas City playing as well as anybody in the NFL right now. I agree with Larry. Should be the Super Bowl favorite. I will hesitate to take the Commanders, but I will do it.
And good call with the line move there. We are seeing some 12.5s on the board. I'm going with the Chiefs team total over, but I'm going to tell you why in our best bet segment. Before we get to week 8 best bets, let's take a look at how we've been doing so far. Week 7, how do we feel, guys? Did we do all right? Okay. All right. I didn't even realize I was 5-2. That's nice. Okay. Everybody else is 3-4. Come on, boys, keep up. I'm just kidding. All right, RJ, what do you like this week?
I'm taking Panthers plus 7.5. Great matchup for Carolina's run game. Line should not have inflated from the preseason look ahead, which was -7, despite the quarterback change here. I think Panthers cover this one.
Larry?
I want to get back to 500 so fast that I am playing Thursday Night Football. I'm taking the Vikings plus the 3.5, which is widely available now, the 3.5. This Chargers defense has been atrocious, and I like the Vikings getting Aaron Jones back to help out Carson Wentz.
Will, my Pats cash for you last week. Who you got this week?
Yeah. Look, I was screwed about the revenge narrative. Got a little scared early, but Mike Vrabel and Drake May took care of business, add to that Patriots defense. I'll take the 49ers. I think, we talked about the Vikings last week and it didn't work out, but I think the wrong team is favored here. 49ers should be favored. Give me the Niners, catching like 1.5 against a Texas team that's coming off a tough loss.
Give me Chiefs team total. I don't want to lay the spread, but 28.5 points is certainly attainable. They've cashed in 3 of the last 4, only missing by the hook. Mahomes found 9 different receivers before the end of the third quarter last week. You get back one of your top guys in Rice. And the interceptions are not going to be an issue because this squad is not forcing interceptions. The Commanders, the defense overall gave up 44 to the Commanders. Falcons put up 34 to them not long ago. Give me the Chiefs team total. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, here on the Early Edge. Don't forget, Monday through Friday, you can catch us, scan that QR code to watch and to listen. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. For the rest of the crew, I'm Claudia Bellofatto. Thanks for hanging out.